This is a conversation with Sebastian Elmenhoff, a black belt out of Sweden and JT Torres' first European black belt. He started out as a project manager in Stockholm and gave up the corporate life to run a farm. He also trains dogs for the Swedish military in addition to building the farm. I hope you enjoy our chat. I know you had a very interesting journey to black belt where you were kind of traveling between continents. What was that journey like for you? What was it like getting your black belt?
Well, where should I start? It started, one big pivotal moment in my life was my divorce like 14 years ago. Because I moved from the north of Sweden down to the capital, Stockholm. And I moved from what was mine all into hers. And then we were together for like 4 years or something. And everything that we did was investing in her social life and so on and so forth. So her friends' husbands became my friends and so on and so forth. And after we split up, everybody has to take sides, and nobody sided with me. So I stood there all alone, and I had a daughter who was 1 year old, and I couldn't move because I didn't want to be without her. I had a job that wasn't the most exciting, and I wasn't in the best place. So a guy recommended me. He's like, "There's a Jiu-Jitsu gym in your part of town." So I went there, and boom, I never left. So I started out in a little, it was a little club. It's now one of the biggest in Stockholm. I think it's like third or fourth or something like that.
What's this called?
Poseidon.
Poseidon. Okay.
Poseidon Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
It started in a like a bomb shelter cellar. With a huge call. Yeah, it was the typical suburb little gym.
Yep.
And then in my divorce, kind of starting up my inner journey, handling all my baggage stuff, I've always wanted to travel, but I've tried, but there was always something that got in between. So I just, like, one day I was like, screw it. So I went on my first jiu-jitsu journey for 3 weeks to San Diego, to Atos headquarters, and I met a lot of great people. One of them was JT Torres, and for the next coming 5 years, I think 5 or 6 years, I was a purple belt when I got there first time. I went over to San Diego every summer for 3 weeks, and then JT Torres got his new gym in New York, and Poseidon decided to bring him over as an instructor for like 2 weeks. So he came to Sweden, and so we hanged out for 2 weeks, and he was like, "Why haven't you gotten your brown belt yet?" And I'm like, "I don't know," because I jumped around in clubs in Sweden. I was like the biggest creonche in Stockholm at the time. But then he's like, "Well, I can take it if I get it from you," I said jokingly, and he said, "Yeah, sure, fine." And then I was in a kind of in a pinch because I was under my Swedish instructor. There's no politics, but also there are politics.
There's politics. Yeah, it's hard to deal with that sometimes.
And it's not so much politics as it is relations in my case, because I started as a white belt with my guy Steven, and he helped me a lot. I came up with him, so I trained with him, and then he recommended, and I started training at other places, and so on and so forth. But then there was this also like pivotal thinking kind of a thing that I was like, okay, fast forward, I'm like 82 years old, I'm sitting in a rocking chair, I'm looking back, what am I gonna the most joy about, kind of a thing. So I'm like, Screw it. So I got my brown belt from JT Torres, and then it led on to I got my black belt also from JT Torres. And doing that, it was maybe not the best political position from my side, but I'm an egotistic bastard, so
I think we all have those moments, and sometimes jiu-jitsu feels a little bit more like I need to do what's good for me if I want to learn and progress. And sometimes it's a hard decision.
Yeah, it was. It's not. It was not an easy decision, but when I started my life, it was not the very best. So the later now in life is all about trying to up that with good stuff for me, so to say.
Did it sort of change your outlook on jiu-jitsu or life when you got your black belt, or was it just another step in the journey?
Both, I think, because it's a black belt, you know. Even though it's just a belt, blah blah blah, only covers 2 inches of your back, all that. But still, you've been working towards it for everything between however long it takes, to 8, 10, 9, whatever. So it's a fulfillment, and you put in time, and also someone else recognizes that you've got them to that skill level. I think that for me was my inner child, you know, kind of a thing. Oh, you've been so good, here's a black belt, kind of a thing. And then also I was the first European black belt under JT Torres, so I'm like, ooh. I tried to like milk it for everything for myself. So I think both. It was both a big block because it's a black belt. It's a huge achievement, and also it's just like everybody else says. Now it starts because now you don't really have anything to prove anymore, because you've gotten your black belt. And if anybody has a problem with my black belt, I'm just saying, well, then call JT and talk with him, because it wasn't my decision, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I have a friend that he got his brown belt a few weeks ago, and he's been avoiding it like the plague, because he's like a perfectionist, kind of a thing. But in our talks, I was like a little bit also that if you don't take it, you disregard the ones who try to give you the belt as well. So there's always two sides to a coin, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What kind of lessons did that mean for you? Like when you got that belt and you realized, like, okay, now I feel a little bit different. I no one can tell me anything. Like what did you learn about yourself with that?
I don't know if it changed that much about myself, like lesson wise. But first time is like you have the imposter syndrome. I'm like, is it for real? Oh, is someone just joking around or whatever? And then, of course, you also have the kind of prove it moments after the black belt. You have to like prove it mostly for yourself.
Yep.
But after that, I only have fun with it. I don't apply to the now I have to strangle everybody and never tap and so on and so forth. I've been micro focusing instead on bettering my game, as everybody says. Oh, now it starts for real, and now you do. So yeah.
What was the biggest lesson you took from jiu-jitsu off the mat?
All over biggest lesson?
Yeah.
It's a proof of concept, I think, that whatever you do in jiu-jitsu you can apply to everything else if you just get to know yourself. But if I have to sum it up, I probably say stress management. I think that's the biggest thing you should take out of your jiu-jitsu journey in whatever level you're at. That it's all about stress management, and if you can handle your stress when someone is on top of you trying to strangle you, you can handle whatever stress situation you are at in life. If you have a bad day, the boss is yelling, or the kids are fighting, or you haven't eaten anything, and you can always try to pick out the remember stick, like, oh well, at least nobody's trying to strangle me.
So speaking of the boss yelling at you, you no longer have that like 9 to 5 kind of job anymore. You gave it up and decided to go buy a farm. Like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what were you doing before? How'd you come to that decision?
I've been doing a lot of different jobs. I started out in school, and then I was a butcher, and then I drive taxis, and then I drive bus, tourism in Europe, and then I ended up in Stockholm, and I drove a lorry truck for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And then I had a huge opportunity to get in building logistics, and that just fitted me like the hand in the glove kind of a thing. So I got on a banana peel and just took away, because it started out as building logistics, and I ended up in quite high up in the project management in construction. So I was the best one was I was 7 years and building a whole new part of a town in Stockholm, and I was one of the coordinators of the whole thing. They bought a huge piece of land, and then they sold some of the pieces to building developers, and then my job was to coordinate that everything worked, and meetings and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, so I was there for like 7 years, and then after that I just another opportunity just went in my lap, and I went with the same mindset from the 7-year project into the next project. And then I just burnt out, because I was trying to do, everything. And I invest a bit of myself into things. That's what made me really, really good at what I did. But if someone only takes and takes and takes and you burn out, which I did. So I got put on sick leave for like 3 months. And after that, in all of that, we were looking for a farm, and we bought it. And so those 3 months I spent here in the woods, just timbering and everything. And then it was like, let's just get out of here. So a year later, we just packed up and moved out into the woods. Mainly because I've always dreamt of a cabin in the woods kind of a thing. But I got stuck in Stockholm because I got my daughter, and I couldn't leave, and I couldn't really take her away from her mom either, kind of a thing. But now she was older, she was 12, and she was gonna change schools, and it fitted quite well. And it started to the classic big town trouble things were starting to bloom up in our neighborhood as well. A lot of shit going on. So we decided to just get out of there, and we did.
So what kind of lessons did you have to learn moving on to a farm? Like, how much did you know about farm life beforehand, kind of a thing?
I took a year-long course in regenerative agriculture with holistic management, but that's more of a meta thing than actual particulates. Learning by doing. There's YouTube, and there's homesteaders, and there's everything. So it's not that big of a deal, because it's not a big farm. It's not a agriculture. I don't have like 200 heads running around and so on and so forth. Right. It's small. It's like 10 hectares. So it's not that big, and right now I'm just shoveling out trees to open up old pastures, and so learning by doing. Just,
Do you have a vision for what you want the farm to be?
With the holistic management, which applies to everything, you can apply to everything. Holistic management is that you write a context, how you want to live your life, what's your goals, what you want, who's your resource base, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I have a what do you say? Goal picture is the Swedish word. I have a set goal.
Goal in mind, yeah.
Yeah. So I want some animals, be self-sufficient in meat and vegetables and eggs, and also make enough money on the farm so we can go on a holiday every winter time. So that's the goal of the farm.
Is there anything that like drove you to that? I mean, I know you said burnout, but it was that doesn't necessarily, not everybody who burns out's like, I want to go live on a farm.
No, as I said before, I've always had a dream in like a cabin in the woods kind of a situation. Yeah. But I got derailed when I got myself into a father situation.
Yep.
So it's more kind of a delayed situation that did a big pivot in my thinking. Because if I haven't gotten my daughter there, if I've broken up with my ex-wife, I would probably just move out in the woods then.
What role does Jiu-Jitsu play in your life these days?
I train maybe 3 times a week nowadays. So when we were in the mix of moving, I started to look around, and there were no gyms like nearby. The nearest was maybe an hour away, and they did mostly no gi. And I'm I'm mostly a gi guy because I'm old and fat. I almost said not anymore, but so I kind of had given up on more jiu-jitsu moving here actually. But then a guy told me, well, there's a gym in Karlsborg. I'm like, okay. So I started to look around and I couldn't find anything. So I went on the Swedish Federation website, and there was like a number and a name, and it turned out there's a gym in Karlsborg. It's mainly for the military. So yeah, it's they have a military base there. So I started training there.
Is it? Do you use jiu-jitsu in the same way that you sort of used it earlier in life as balance?
Yes. I usually, when I talk to people otherwise, I say you need to have as many legs as possible to stand on. Have fun at work is one leg. Have jiu-jitsu is another leg. Have a good life at home, spare times, because sometimes this leg doesn't really do anything, and sometimes that one, and then it disappears. Sometimes you need to stand on different legs. If you only have one and it goes away, you're probably not in a good place. So Jiu-Jitsu is definitely a vent. Sometimes things don't go according to plan and so on and so forth. So then you need to, strangle it out on someone. Go have physical therapy.
How is it doing jiu-jitsu for you after like a physically intensive job, like working on a farm all day? Like, do you still have the energy, or is it not there some days?
Yeah, of course. Some days I think every Friday it's a legendary day on the gym. It's 2 hours sparring only with highly fit people. So there's not a restaurant inside, and this is not the gym that you sit down and look at people. It's like, okay, we're uneven, well then the winner stays, let's go. And then it's 2 hours, and then it's constantly, and if we were even, there's no breaks. 2 hours. So last Friday I did a 24-hour fast, and I've been hauling timber out of one of the pastures the whole morning, and I think, I will be okay. After the second round, I lost my head, all my confidence and everything, so I just got super smashed for 2 hours. So, yeah, no, it's not always there. I mean, that's the way it should be, and it is what it is. And humans are made to suffer. If we don't suffer, we just find strange things to focus on and find suffering in that kind of a thing. So the more comfortable you are, the more you go up in your head, and the more you're in your head, the worse it gets.
Is that kind of the lesson you took away from 2 hours of getting smashed?
It's kind of a, think of it as an alignment. If you get smashed in two ways, you can look at yourself as a piece of iron in a blacksmith, but you're all bent out of shape, and those 2 hours of hammering is straightening you out or giving you back in balance or something. I don't know. It's all about perspective. It's how you put it for yourself. If you go in there with, oh, I'm gonna perform and I'm gonna be, I don't care if you're a white belt or a black belt. If you go in with wrong mentality, you're gonna go out worse than when you came in. So when you go in, that's the old saying, leave the ego at the door. Because if you go in with your ego and try to force yourself on someone and they smash you and then you're not living up to your own expectations, then So prerequisites was the word I was looking for. You need to have the right prerequisites going in. I always say blank sheet, no expectations whatsoever. Just go there. What's your goal? Having fun. Most fun wins. And it's super fun to submit someone, so it's not wrong having that as a goal either, but be careful what you put up on your goalposts, because if you don't end up there, you're just going to be disappointed. So another life lesson from the Jiu-Jitsu is, here's reality, here's expectations, and the more they go apart, the more room the darkness has to grow in, right? So you want to smash that, and it's like the best movies we go to is the one you have no expectations for, and they just deliver. Or the meal that came up unexpectedly and you just sit there and we're like, wow, I didn't, and so on and so forth. Oh, I found love, wasn't looking for it, and all of a sudden it was right there. All those cliche things. Yeah. So I always say that the old cliche sayings are there for a reason. If they survived like 100 years, it's probably some truth in them.
What kind of lessons did you take from working on a farm and bringing it onto the mat? Like, the reverse of taking the lessons off the mat and bringing them onto the farm.
From the farm to the mats, I don't think too much, because my foundation is more from Jiu-Jitsu. So the things that happens on the farm, I usually reference backwards to the Jiu-Jitsu, and then I use, on the other hand, I take a lot from the mat to the farm, kind of a thing. Like the whole mentality. Can you give some examples? The whole mentality thing. If you're tired and you say, just go, just do it. I have 5 minutes. Well, it's just 5 minutes. It's just one round. Let's go. Let's do it. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Just tap. Just tap. The whole consequence, it's not too bad, kind of a thing. The worst thing that can happen is you tap. So, not being afraid of failure, because either you tap or you learn. So.
But what does that mean on a farm? I mean, you're not tapping on a farm.
Well, no, but instead of just standing there and banging your head on a problem that you can't solve right there and then, just tap, and then you go away and you come back, and you try again. And also one of my absolute favorite, what do you say? If someone says quotes, absolute favorite quotes ever is, if you train uncomfortable situations, there will be no uncomfortable situations. So that's also the same on the farm. It's not always sunshine and happy days. Sometimes you have to chase animals who escapes, or the electricity went out, or so on and so forth. So it's how to handle the hard situations that I think the Jiu-Jitsu thing prepared me for. And that's not just farming, it's life in general. If you train uncomfortable situations, there will be no uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you had told me earlier that you also now help raise Air Force dogs. Like, how did you get into that? And how did you get into that?
So there in Sweden, they have a program for, they need help raising the Air Force dogs. So they have a program you can sign up and become a I don't know the English word for it, but you just
Dog
you
trainer?
get you get a 8-week puppy, little,
Yeah.
and
Foster.
then yeah, thank you. Oh, you need to be like a starter foster home, so you get it by 8 weeks, and when it's 15 months, it goes to and makes a test and see where it fits, and then it goes away to whatever police, military, or just different guard companies or something. And then she starts her life as a official enforcement or military dog.
How'd you get into that?
Well, actually, I was on the way to Jiu-Jitsu, and there was a truck that went by that had like a sticker on the side of it, a military truck. It says, "Do you want to be foodevärd? Do you want to be a host home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I went in and I just put in my info and hit send, and then I didn't think much about it. And then like 3 weeks later, this woman calls and she's like, "Well, we get puppies in 1 week. Could you could you help us?" So it was just one of those things that just fell into place. So it started out as I saw a sticker, and then I got into it. I got my first puppy and raised her. It went pretty well, and then now I'm gonna be more, instead of just racing them, I'm gonna be more a trainer, because sometimes the dogs are too much for whatever reason for the families, and then they were like, "Ooh, tap out," and then the dog has probably got some issues or some beteende, some stuff
Like
that
behavioral challenges?
Yes, thank you. They have behavioral set, and then you need to train that away and get them back on track. So that's gonna be my new role going forward with this. So I'm super excited. It's really fun. The same
You
way
had dogs
as
all your life?
not my own dogs, but I've been around dogs my whole life. Yes.
So this was like kind of a natural thing for you to be like, oh, I can actually not just foster dogs, I can train them and get them ready for military service, civil service.
Yeah, so the first dog was super fun, and just with the black belt, they saw that I had a real passion for this, that I saw it was fun, and they were starting to ask me questions if I was interested in helping out with the dog. Came trouble dogs, helping out to correct them and training them and so on. And I was like, yeah, sure. So it was my first dog that got me into the training situation, so it's super fun.
Yeah, I've had dogs the majority of my life, and I feel like dogs are one of those things that if you don't let them run wild and they're reasonably well trained, that they're actually a grounding effect for the home, for the person. It's the untrained ones that are quite difficult around, at least for me, to deal with.
Yeah, so these dogs are super bred for this occasion, so they're like a 160-year-old breeding program. So they've been Formula One. Just you take this and this. Okay, we needed to get even sharper in this area. So we take this dog, and so they've been mixing around. So it's not a family dog at all. So when we have meetups like once a month, and then all the ones in the area meet up, and we all have dogs. And this dog was one of 3, and the other ones have the first one. She got replaced because the first one just let her, and then she got chaos. It took them over 6 months to get her into a state where she was not crazy, because she has 1.5 months in the beginning just going crazy, and it took 6 months to get her back on track. And then one who's a little timid, and then mine. But I have the fortunate situation that I'm with her all day. So I can go and tinker on her and tell her every day. So that's why it looks like my dog is really well trained, because they have a job they have to go to like 8 hours away and so on and so forth. But I can go all day and no, yes, good. So we're together all day, and that's a huge advantage when it comes to training.
What other kind of things is this dog trained for, like, or bred for rather? Are they like high energy? Are they very intelligent?
They're high everything. They're high everything. So if you don't stimulate them, she can run. The fastest I clocked her is she's super fast. She has a nose that's crazy. She loves nose work, tracking, and so on and so forth. Doing protection work. She's an all over. It's a German Shepherd. So
yeah,
it's yeah. They've looked for certain traits, and then they've just bred to enforce the traits, and well, they have done a really good job. So I can understand the people that get them and get overwhelmed and like tap out, because I have one of my dog's siblings, the one that got away in the beginning. When she got replaced, she had managed to open the freezer and took out all the boxes in the freezer and opened them up and eat everything, and she had chewed the fodder around the door, and she destroyed so much in their house. And when you're a puppy feeder, that's not the right word, but it's not like you get really good pay either.
Yeah,
you get a sum. They pay for everything, the veterinarian, and so on and so forth. But you don't get like a full-time pay when you do this. You get a little thank you,
little stipend.
Sum.
Yeah.
So she was.
Is it hard to give the dogs up after the short period of time that you're with them, or is it?
No. Well, my daughter, 14 years old. In all her hormonal status that she's in, she had quite a hard time. She's like, well, she's a family member and so on and so forth, because it's gonna be over a year she's been here, and we got her as a little puppy, booty boo, and then we trained her and had her and so on and so forth. So for her, yes. For me, not so much, because my prerequisites going in is, well, I'm gonna try to make her as good as possible and prepare her for what's coming. So that's my prerequisites going in. So both yes and no. It's kind of sad, because in the morning she's super cuddly and wants to come up and cuddle, but we last time we met up, there was the one who had the dog from 8 weeks to over 1.5 years, and then we had the police there that took over the dog. Okay, so 2 weeks after she left the first person that she grew up with, 2 weeks later she was with the police, and the dog met the first person. She was like, "Okay, see ya." She didn't even care. She didn't even care.
Oh my gosh, that would be heartbreaking.
Yeah, so that's they're super loyal, but they're super untrustworthy.
I don't think I would have considered that for German Shepherds. My experience of German Shepherds has always been like, they really care about their owners, but I guess I haven't really seen too many owners change.
No, so, and also it's, if the dog goes from one place to another and they start working with the dog like every day, like in my situation, I have had the privilege to be with the dog every day, every time, all day long. But if you've been working and the dog have been home for like 6 hours a day, and then they move to another place and they are with someone all day and they do work and they go out and they chase bad guys and so on and so forth, they live in the now. They are really the power of the now kind of a thing. So they don't care about the history that much. They can be like, well, hello, but the most fun wins.
And for dogs, that's working sometimes.
Yes, especially these dogs. They are super work tolerable. All they want to do is just work.
Yeah, that's I don't think that most people realize like how intense some of the working dogs are when they're working.
Yeah, and also when they're not working, because they usually are. If they're intense when they're working, they probably always intense always. And then there's of course different breeds and different working dogs, but these ones, the military, the police ones, they're high energy. So you have the Malinois, or the German Shepherds usually, and the Malinois is even more work. So yeah, I think it's interesting, and it all boils down to psychology, but it's dog psychology, but it's the same principles and so on and so forth.
I mean, you spent a lot of time lately working on your own psychology. Do you see like a lot of parallels between dog psychology and human psychology, or is that just?
No, it's no, definitely not. It's you. The fun part is you lose a lot of the communication that you have with other humans when you try to communicate to another species, kind of a thing. You can't talk to them like I'm talking to you. I'm like, you can't chew on that because blah 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 blah, so and so will be sad. She doesn't care. And so you also have to scale back your own expectations, which is a huge part of dog training, because you have expectations on the dog and they feel that, and if they don't live up to that, then you're disappointed, and they feel that because they go on energy and so on and so forth. And it's the communication is super important, because if you don't establish a good rapport with the dog, they're not going to listen. And if they don't listen, you have a useless dog, or not, excuse me, a useless tool more. If you have a tool that doesn't do what you want it to do, then it's a useless tool. So yeah, no, it's psychology indeed. It's super fun. It gets you to be better at human psychology, because you get raw. It's like when you roll and you put one hand in the belt or two hand in the belts, and then you start rolling with someone. When you get your hands back, it's much easier, right?
Yeah.
So I can parallel all you want all day.
I mean, I think it's oftentimes when something is a part of your life for as long as jiu-jitsu is a part of most people's life who have made it to black belt, then it's quite easy to find the parallels, because it's like a bit of a safe spot. It's like, here's something I know, here's something I'm comfortable with, here's something I've learned to evolve with and learned to grow with in my life. And so when I think about, hey, here's a thing in my life, I can parallel it back to what I've learned in jiu-jitsu.
And that's the way it should be, because if you're not safe, you won't learn. If you're not safe, you don't take chances. If you're not safe, so on and so forth. So definitely, I feel strongly about getting all people I meet into jiu-jitsu, because it's the stress situation. Back to that, stress management. If you're in a situation and you're starting to stress out, and then just remember, well, there's no hands around my neck at least. So okay, now it's not as bad. It's about moving the comfort zone thing.
Is there anything that you wish kind of everybody would know about jiu-jitsu, or the experience of it?
Yeah, I kind of wish that you could go in and be a black belt for 2 weeks, and then go back to starting your journey to see that it's gonna be worth it. There's another cliche: you're gonna be somewhere in 10 years. Why not also be a black belt, kind of thing? And just do it. It's worth it. Every day I use some jiu-jitsu in some way, somehow in my life, and been doing so for the last 10 years.
What is that lesson? What is that lesson that you would expect people to get from 2 weeks as a black belt and then starting their journey? Like, what would that do for people?
I think just a glimpse of when you maybe took a trip, or you went on a hike or whatever, It was super hard. It rained all the time, and the shoelaces went out, and you got shaves on your foot, and so on and so forth. And it was like a terrible week, but you did it. And then you always think back of that, and it's kind of a fond memory in when you look at it in the rearview mirror, because you did it and you survived and so on and so forth. It was kind of fun, and you only remember like the good times, kind of a thing. That's the thing I think you would get out of the 2-week probation period, kind of a thing, that you would actually get the feeling of the accomplishment of doing it, because it's for you, it's not for anybody else. You do it for you, and you grow, you learn. It's I mean, just just do it, trust me. It's worth all of the pain and blood, sweat, and tears.
What's your kind of favorite memory related to jiu-jitsu, on the mat, off the mat, but just what's your favorite memory?
I don't know. I don't think I can single one out. One is obviously getting my black belt, but it was also strange because I was in and out of the gym. I was going there maybe 5 times a year for like 2 years. So I wasn't super involved with the gang there, and when I got my black belt, it was a room full of strangers, kind of a thing. Not with the but black belt, of course. My God, I don't know. I don't know. It's the wow moments, I think. It's not then. Instead of one specific memory on the mat, I want to go and choose a category of moments on the mats, and then I think it's the wow moments or the click moments, when a technique clicks, or when you get that one in, or when you're like, oh shit, I've if you had a guy that you've been training with and he's always been ahead of you, and that one time when that pivots, if you get that to pivot, and then it pivots and you're the one that's ahead all of a sudden. I think the self-fulfilling moments it's amazing. I'm gonna cherish those. I cherish those always. There's always something. I'm like, yeah.
It sounds like you've gotten a lot of self-confidence from jiu-jitsu.
Strangely enough, I've always had a high libido going through life, but this, yes, it's been a confident booster in the way that trust my abilities. I have abilities. I've always had abilities, but I haven't had the upbringing that people have learned me to trust the abilities. It's been the opposite kind of a thing. The you're not worthy way, if so to say. So getting I knew this, and I did this, and then I proved it, not to others but mostly to myself, and then you get that self-trust, self-worth, and so on and so forth. So the inner journey is most definitely a part of the whole experience. And yes, self-confidence and the calmness, the calm, you need to, it's back to stress relating. It's nothing to get riled up about. Just keep your calms. Go. It's the whole lake thing. Here's the surface. It's storm, and then you dive down here. It's quiet and easy. Just go inside and mellow down. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. If they give me too much trouble, I can just choke them out. And having that thing in the backpack is, yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time to chat today. It was really good to talk to you about jiu-jitsu and life and dog training and all that stuff. If somebody wants to find you on social media or reach out or ask you questions, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I have my own personal Instagram, and I have Facebook, okay. And then I have the farm Instagram as well. So I don't know if you have any show notes later. I can.
Yep, I'll put it in the show notes.
And you're welcome.
Anything you'd like to promote?
No, start your inner journey. Keep on the jiu-jitsu journey and get everybody on board. If you have kids, get them.
Cool. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation. Very shortly after the recording, Basi reached out to me to make sure that we mention his wife and 2 kids since we didn't talk about them during the episode itself. Shout out to Sebastian's family for being so inspirational and so supportive to him in his life. He greatly appreciates you and definitely does not want you to feel left out. To everyone else listening, if you have any questions about getting out of the corporate life and moving to a farm, perhaps in Sweden, reach out to Basi. And if you ever find yourself near Karlsborg in Sweden and want to train with Sebastian or a bunch of Swedish military folks who won't give you a rest round, you can also reach out to Basi. As always, thanks for your time and attention.